When it comes to book authors, no one is as big as my next guest. Sitting right across the desk from me, Jackie Collins has published 30 novels, sold more than 500 million copies. It's pretty hard to get your mind around that. In over 40 countries. Every single novel has been on the New York Times bestsellers list and gives readers a bit of an insight into what happens in Hollywood. And the latest book is called Confessions of a Wild Child. It's no exception to that. Jackie Collins, welcome back to 3RW Afternoons.
Thank
Last
you.
time it was on the phone.
I know it was on the phone.
Back in Australia for how long?
Just a week. Yeah, I'm back to LA next Tuesday because I've got another book to write.
Have you got a target of how many you want to write?
Well, this is my 30th book, and I would probably like to write 60 books. I don't know. I love writing. I love it. You know, I get up in the morning. If I have nothing else to do except write, I'm a happy person.
Longhand?
Longhand, yeah, still. And then afterwards I have them all bound in leather. And I love that process, you know. To me, I love creating characters, telling stories. I'm not a literary writer. I have never pretended to be a literary writer. I am a storyteller, and I tell bloody good stories.
Well, 500 million copies would say, yes, you're on the right mix.
And Confessions of a Wild Child, I originally wrote as a YA novel. And then when my publishers got it, they went, oh, no, your fans are going to love this book. We have to do it for everybody. And so it is Lucky Santangelo, the character I've written about in 7 books and 2 miniseries on television. And she's back, but she's 15.
Yes,
so it's the early days, yeah. And how do you go through that whole thing of being 15, finally let loose on the world, and how does she become the woman she is today?
Your books have been given people an insight into sort of what Hollywood's like, and you live there.
Right.
We see a lot of wild childs these days, the Lindsay Lohans and
We
and
certainly
the like.
do, don't we? Yeah. And Amanda Bynes and, of course, Little Miley doing her thing.
Little Miley's been in the news.
Yes, she certainly has. She was engaged to an Australian, wasn't she? Australians are taking over Hollywood, I tell you that. The guys are all so gorgeous and macho, and the women are beautiful and smart. It's really great.
How much has Hollywood changed? How long have you lived there?
I've lived there, I first went there when I was a teenager and lived there for a while then. Then I came back and lived in Europe, and then I eventually went back to live permanently in America about 25 years ago.
How much has it changed?
It's changed in the fact that it's all very much run by big business now. It used to be, there used to be people who were very creative, who would kind of run the studio system, but now it's all money. It's all about money. It's all about box office. That's why you see so many movies made for 16-year-old boys, because they figure that brings the money in. But nobody really cares, And then you see all these movies that have sequels, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, because they make money. It's all about money.
Your books also, you base them around people you've met. Does that stop you from being invited to parties if people are in fear that they could be in the next one?
No, people love having me at parties. I know a lot of people, but if I meet somebody famous who I don't know, those are the only ones that are somewhat reticent around me. I can see them like, oh, it's Jackie Collins. Is she going to write about me,
The Wild Child, Lucky,
Yeah.
it's and the thing about reading the book is that when you start reading, it's the way you write. It just engages people very easily into the story.
Well, I think this is a very easy read because it was originally written for a younger audience, but the older audience loves it too because we all remember when we're 15, don't we? Don't you remember your first crush? Don't you remember that girl you had your eye on in high school and she wouldn't give you the time of day and then finally
Correct.
she does? Well, Lucky in this book, her mother is murdered when she's 5 years old. She discovers the body floating in the family swimming pool. Her father, Gino Santangelo, who's a notorious gangster, decides he's going to keep her protected, so she's kind of locked away from the world. But when she's 15, he says, I'm going to send you to boarding school in Switzerland. And she has this mad crush on his bodyguard, Marco, tall, dark, and handsome, and 30. And she thinks he's incredibly old, but incredibly horny and sexy and fantastic. And we've all had that feeling when we're 15. And so she goes off to boarding school, and she immediately meets this girl, Olympia Stanilopoulos, who is the daughter of a Greek shipping billionaire. This is a Jackie Collins book after all. And the two of them run off and they escape to the south of France, and they hole up in this fantastic mansion that belongs to one of Olympia's aunts that never goes there. And they have all these adventures. And you watch Lucky as she interacts with all the various boys she comes across as she becomes the woman she is today, strong and invincible.
Was that risky going back, given that you've had Lucky as an adult and living a life? Is it risky to go back and sort of explain where she's come from?
It wasn't risky. It was really exciting. I had so much fun writing this book, and I wrote this book very fast because there's a little bit of her teenage years in Chances. But now people are reading this book, Confessions of a Wild Child, and then they're going, oh, I got to go back and read Chances again to see what happens next, because I leave this book just when she's 16, and something that Gino arranges. I'm not going to spoil the ending for anybody, but Gino arranges something that it kind of puts Lucky in a trap, and we've got to see how she gets out of this trap.
It is 17 past 12. Special guest today, Jackie Collins, and in Melbourne. I'll tell you where you can actually meet Jackie shortly. You were writing this really for the youth market. Are you concerned that young people are not reading enough?
I like the fact that they're reading a lot, and a lot of them read my books like The Power Trip and Lucky and Drop Dead Beautiful, and I would get these tweets from kids, you know, who are 14 and 13, and I thought, well, I should give them something that's more suitable for them to read, maybe. But they love the other books too, so it was great. I kind of write for everybody. I write for young, old, black, white, all sexual orientations. So if you read a Jackie Collins book, there's something for everybody. And I particularly like writing strong, positive women who are kind of James Bond for women, which is what Lucky is. She's a James Bond for women. And people will say to me, how old is Lucky now? And I'll go, how old is James Bond?